Chapter 20, 8 a.m. UTC-6, 3 p.m. UTC +1. You'd think I'd be grateful for a day skip which took me away from a murderer pointing a gun at my head. And I was grateful, mostly, but also a little frustrated. I knew I'd return to that same intense moment in 6 of my hours. I'd had so much peace, unearthly peace. What if I don't get it back then? Or if something else happens in these 6 hours which rattles me? Strange challenges presented by the day skipping, no doubt. I need to trust you with my future. I sat in the hospital room in Swift Current and drummed my fingers on the bedside table. So, what now? Oh yeah, Jeremy's challenge. Do something which would show the truthfulness of what I was saying about my experience of time. But how? Call him? I think I remember his cell number. But no, that would not provide any evidence to him in the interrogation room on Thursday. Text him? Same problem. It would arrive now, not when I needed to. And he hasn't said anything about a call or text from me while I was still in Canada. I pictured the interrogation room scene. Jeremy had just confiscated my phone, so I couldn't do anything tricky with it. But what if I put something on my phone now, which would already be there as he holds it? I could tell him how to find it. What, a video? But I didn't do that. I thought about how the photos and videos on the phone were stored in various albums. Some of those albums had not been accessed in a long time. What if I save a video to an album I haven't looked into for a while? I could bury a video in an album within an album, several layers deep. The appeal grew. The proof Jeremy wants in the future could be created now in the chronological past. That would be a good indication I'm telling the truth, I think. I could even do it once or twice more in the coming hours before I'm back with him. What would I put in a video like that? "Good morning," came a voice, startling me out of my scheming. The doctor entered. I felt a little annoyed at the interruption, but thought better of it. "You need to be released from hospital, Kyle, so cooperate." "How do you feel this morning?" I reported a slight headache. The doctor proceeded to examine me. When finished, he looked pleased. "You are recovering well. I don't think you will experience any lasting problems. So, we'll observe you for a couple more hours just to make certain, and if all goes well, you can go home." The doctor started to leave. A thought burst into mind. "Doctor, wait!" The man stopped and looked back. "Just a silly request. Could you do me a favor?" I explained. The doctor looked uncomfortable, but agreed. I took my phone and posed beside him. I nodded and pressed record. The doctor began. "Hello, Jeremy in Paris. I'm Kyle's doctor in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. This is the morning of Saturday, January 3rd. Kyle will be okay. He thanks you for the food you gave him. Goodbye." I stopped recording. "Thanks, that will help me a lot," I said happily. The doctor shook his head, probably thinking something like, "Young people are crazy these days," and left the room. I hope I just didn't give him a reason to keep me in here any longer. I moved the video to a new album, several layers deep in my picture and video collection, and waited for the 9 o'clock day skip. I opened my eyes briefly as I lay in my apartment, then closed them again. Then I sat in an armchair in the hotel room in Regina. I grabbed a pen and notepad from the nearby desk and wrote. I stuffed the note into a pocket, grabbed my bags, and left the room. Checking out, I informed the clerk at the front desk. After the transaction, I added, "Could you do me a favor?" The clerk offered to help if she could. I handed her the note I'd written. "Could you read this while I record on video? It's a message for a friend." The clerk seemed much more enthusiastic than the doctor had 2 hours/2 days ago. I moved so I also appeared in the video and pressed record. The clerk chirped happily, "Hello, Jeremy Blanc in Paris. Your friend Kyle has just checked out of his hotel room in Regina, Saskatchewan on this the morning of Monday, January 5th. He flies today and looks forward to seeing you." I ended the recording. "Awesome, thanks." Then I headed into the cold. And cold it was. The car complained when I turned the ignition. Thick frost needed to be scraped from the windows. "Airport, here I come." At 8:28, I pulled into the airport's long-term parking area. As I exited the car, I wondered if I would ever see it again. I forced the notion from my mind. "Need to find the Air Canada check-in," I said, sending puffy clouds of vapor from my mouth as I walked to the terminal. By 8:50, I'd passed through the checks and took the opportunity to sit and collect my thoughts. 1.5 hours still stood between the current time and takeoff, or 14 day skips from now. A lot will have changed by then. Again, I pushed unpleasant thoughts out of mind. I pulled out my phone to reread Mum's text. Still didn't know how to answer. Time ticked second by second to 9 a.m. I knew where I was as soon as I adjusted to the day skip. Restaurant Le Écumoire, a few blocks away from the Wednesday nightmare of Charlie Hebdo. I sat alone at a large table, a mostly empty coffee mug in front of me. The other chairs around the table had been occupied by the group of female workers from the design business near the magazine office. A group of ladies, one of them, Manon. Alluring, to say the least. Confusing, too. I experienced an ache of longing as my mind replayed the last moments with her. "Focus, Kyle." I nabbed a pen from an empty table and carefully wrote a message on a napkin. Waving the waitress over, I asked if she would read the message while I videoed. She agreed. I held out the phone, and at my cue she read, in French, "Hello, Jeremy. Your friend Kyle is looking forward to seeing you tomorrow." There, 3 videos all recorded before he meets me should prove something. I was starting to think of my next move when someone approached. I recognized her as one of the ladies from the business by Charlie Hebdo, one of the ladies who had left not long before. She explained that she had possibly left her phone behind. We both looked under the table, and she found it lying in a shadow. The lady said goodbye again, but paused to add, "Quel est le nom de votre petite amie?" I felt my forehead crease in confusion. The name of my girlfriend? "Qui?" I asked. "La jeune fille qui était ici avec vous." More confusion. "The young girl who was here with me?" I replied, "Tu ne sais pas? Elle travaille avec vous." "How could you not know her? She works with you." The woman was clearly confused and shook her head. "Elle ne travaille pas avec nous." I found nothing to say, shocked. The woman, now looking uncomfortable, made a hasty departure. "Manon doesn't work with them?" I didn't know what to think, other than, first, she tries to distract me, tempts me. Now I find out she wasn't who she seemed to be. Something is very wrong here. I wondered if Manon's offer of specifically Friday evening was not a coincidence. I gripped the edge of the table, tense like a coiled spring. I need to do something. This is the kind of thing that's going to drive me crazy. I left the restaurant and walked, fast, anywhere. After 10 minutes I found a square, Place des Vosges. I looked it up on my phone, which insisted it was the oldest and arguably the most beautiful of Paris squares. Good enough, just gotta keep busy. I whisked around the square and half-heartedly took in its features, then sat down on a bench as the next day skip approached. What's going on with my life? The sense of powerlessness, of being a pawn, had returned. I knew I teetered on a point between despair again and health. I made a declaration. I am not going to let this riddle with Manon frustrate me. I am not going to let it depress me. I am not going to let it paralyze me. I've been through all that. I don't understand it, but I guess that's life. I leave it behind, right now. In a minute, I felt calmer. "Okay, Jeremy, ready or not, here I come," I thought, as a pigeon landed near my feet. "You get back." I smiled at Jeremy, who sat across the table in the interrogation room. There was a smug note in my voice as I said, "I am back. I've just completed 7 day skips since the last time I was here." Jeremy looked skeptical. "You are trying to fool me." I leaned forward. "I have, how did you put it? The sign of truthfulness you asked for. Actually, 3 signs. Jeremy blinked. "Proceed." I approached the subject like a prosecuting attorney. "You hold in your hands my phone, do you not?" Jeremy glanced at it. "Yes." And have I touched it since you gave me this directive to produce proof for you? Jeremy's eyes narrowed. No. In the last 6 hours I have recorded 3 videos with that phone. I'll tell you how to find them, and you can watch them. I gave Jeremy the first step in the process. The Frenchman didn't move. Go on, I coaxed. I haven't touched my phone like you acknowledged. I couldn't have placed the videos on there unless I did so after you directed me to give you proof, just a few chronological minutes ago. I'm actually enjoying this. Jeremy accessed the top level of my photo album. I directed him by memory to the hidden album I'd created 5 experienced hours ago in hospital. A bead of perspiration appeared on Jeremy's forehead as he entered the final level and saw 3 videos waiting there. He tapped the first and it played. My doctor's words reverberated around the room. I chuckled when I heard the doctor thanking Jeremy for feeding me. Jeremy sat statue-like, staring at the phone. It's no trick, I explained. You told me to give you a sign of my truthfulness. I day-skipped and created that video last Saturday. There's 2 more. Play them. More reluctantly, Jeremy tapped the second video. The words of the front desk clerk in the hotel in Regina flowed from the phone. Je ne le crois pas, Jeremy exclaimed when it finished. Number 3 is waiting, I directed with just a slight taunt. The third video, recorded the chronologically prior day in a Parisian restaurant, played. Jeremy laid the phone down on the table. He looked at me, open-mouthed. Then he rose and hastily left the room. I didn't touch the phone, so they cannot accuse me later of somehow manufacturing the videos at this present point. I waited. The clock on the wall read 3:25 p.m. It's 8:25 a.m. at home. By 3:35 nothing had changed. I fought the impulse to grab my phone. At 3:37 Jeremy abruptly re-entered the room. He plunked a notepad onto the table. On it were written a series of numbers. It's his cell number, I recognized. Take your phone and record my contact number, instructed Jeremy. Something in the policeman's tone warned me not to question this, so I did as I was told. There, Jeremy continued once I finished. Now please call me if you have any further news to pass on. Before I could question the finality of the pronouncement, the Frenchman continued, Please stand. I did so. You may leave the prefecture, the investigator stated without expression. It was my turn to be surprised. What did you say? I asked after a pause. We no longer require your presence, so you may leave, furthered Jeremy. He opened the door wide, stepped into the hallway, and motioned for me to walk ahead of him. Why are they doing this? A second and sharper gesture from Jeremy suggested action. With some frustration, I stepped into the hallway. I knew the way to the exit from being escorted out in the chronological future, but many day skips in my past, so I walked without hesitation. I was so upset I didn't even look back at Jeremy when I stepped out of the building into the January chill. I went to sit on the same bench I would use after tomorrow's eviction. Why? I lamented again. And then an unexpected possibility showed itself to me. Are they testing me to see what I will do if I will join up with my supposed terrorist cell? I looked around, but didn't see anyone obviously watching me. Well, if they're watching me, I will show them. I brought up a route map on my phone. I could think of one action which would give them some indication of my loyalties. But I noticed the time was 3:56 and froze. In a few moments, Koulibaly will be pointing a gun at my head. I shivered. I lowered the phone. Okay, I will postpone my plan and pray instead. When I left Koulibaly, God's peace had filled me. I need to ask for it again. I did. God provided. I day-skipped. My ears picked up the strange sound of the end of a scream coming from one of the hostages. Koulibaly stood directly in front of me, a gun leveled toward my head. We stood in the stockroom of the Hypercacher food store, and time seemed to stop. Which is ironic, I thought. And then I felt amazed that such a light thought could occur to me in that situation. I really did have peace. Koulibaly stared hard right into my eyes. I held his gaze without trembling. Suddenly Coulibaly lowered the gun. "Vous n'avez pas peur de mourir?" he demanded. I understood. I held up my phone slowly to show I wanted to send a message. Coulibaly nodded sharply. I typed into the translation app, "I don't want to die, but if that is what must be, I am willing." I sent the message. The message arrived at Coulibaly's phone. He read it. "Donc, nous sommes semblables," came the comment. There seemed to be a tone of respect in his voice. At that moment, Coulibaly's phone rang. He glanced at the display to see who called, then answered. What came were short, clipped statements from Coulibaly, followed by listening. "Is that the Kouachi brothers?" I guessed, trying to piece together the meaning. Coulibaly ended the call with a few curt words. "That didn't sound French. Maybe it's Arabic for goodbye." Everyone stood silent, the hostages nervous, Coulibaly brooding, and me wondering how to turn events to the good. The gunman spoke and pointed the group to a spot in the back of the stockroom. I thought I understood the words, "Sit down and eat." The group retreated. Some found a few mattresses to sit on, and some gathered food items from the shelves. I guess he's expecting this to take a while. Coulibaly started fiddling with something strapped to his chest. A video camera. Coulibaly called out a question, something about needing help. A younger man reluctantly stood and said he could help. Coulibaly waved him over and gave him the video camera. I sat back against a wall. I ate a banana which one of the hostages offered to me. A strange anticlimactic boredom filled the room. In the absence of any plan of action, a thought drifted into my mind, a thought about a certain offer for Friday evening, from a certain someone who was not what she had made herself out to be. I forced myself to stay focused on the present. God, please give me some ideas. Open up some possibilities. What can I do here? Eventually the young helper was sent back to the group. Coulibaly turned his attention to me again. He took his phone and entered something. My phone chirped. I translated the text and read, "Go to the front door and get a large black bag. If you don't come back immediately, I will kill one of these people." I grit my teeth and ventured back into the main area of the store, stepping over broken containers which leaked their contents through bullet holes. I didn't look in the direction of the bodies. I found the large black bag near the main door and returned to the stockroom. Coulibaly stood in the doorway. "Ouvrez-le," he ordered, gesturing to the bag. I set it on the floor and unzipped it. I gasped. Even my untrained eye recognized explosives. Is he going to blow this place up? "Prends-les, mettez-les autour de l'épicerie," spoke Coulibaly, moving his gun in a circle. "He wants me to put the bombs around the store?" I looked down at the bag. I didn't even want to touch it. Coulibaly laughed and said something I didn't catch. Maybe, "Don't worry." I still didn't move. Coulibaly looked like he was getting impatient, so I carefully lifted the bag again and walked to one side of the store. I gingerly took out a set of explosives and put it down. I was sweating. While I was briefly out of Coulibaly's sight, I examined the next bundle in a desperate hope of disarming it, but couldn't see any way to do that. Randomly pulling wires would probably be a good way to trigger it. I set it down and then placed the final 2 bombs. I returned to the back with the bag, feeling used and useless. I was commanded to stop near the entry. Coulibaly backed further into the stockroom. Coulibaly sent another text. Ping. I read, "Why are you not afraid to die?" I looked up.